Good morning, everyone. Here I am in sunny Jamaica, sitting on my veranda, having my cup of turmeric chai, and I thought I was inspired to talk a little bit about ideas, about life in this human existence. And one of the things that I have come to understand is that growth doesn't happen in spite of you, it happens because of you. And most of us are victims of fate in the sense that we go through life and we receive messages, signs, wake up calls, and it's not until crisis happens that we have to jump to attention, that we have to make a decision, that we have to change course. We're forced because of circumstances. And that's very painful. I'm sure most of you have been through situations like that where, you just were denying or ignoring the signs, and then one day, boom, you end up with a terrible disease, or you end up with your husband cheating on you, or your wife cheating on you, or suddenly your boss tells you, you're out of here and we're getting somebody else, or all of these life circumstances which put us in stress and crisis and force us to make decisions that we refused to make before, when the signs were just creeping in. And what I have learned in my life is to pay attention to my life, pay attention to what I'm feeling and thinking, and pay attention to how I respond or react to other people, and to ask questions. I don't always do this because very often the ego is very compelling and it comes in, and the old habits of judgment and resentment and blame come in. But my first teacher always said the first reaction is always free. These are all habits that come up immediately in a circumstance that triggers you. And what you want to do is accept the fact that you have reacted, but at that moment when you actually practice self-observation and you see, hey, I don't like where I'm going with this. Hold on here. And you stop and you think about what's really going on. And sometimes you may have to apologize and say, I'm so sorry I reacted, but blah, blah, blah. But then you start to understand, why am I having this reaction? What's coming up for me now? Usually it has nothing to do with the other person. Usually the other person is the postman who's just replaying an old program that happened in the past, an energetic program. It would have been different in the past, but it had the same signature. For instance, you may have had an authoritarian dad who, took control over your life and made life miserable for you. And after that, anyone who smacks of any kind of authority figure, you react to. Even though that person may be just a teacher who means well, or somebody leading a workshop that means well, or a friend that's just actually concerned about you. But anything that smacks of, you're taking control of my life, even though that person may just be offering advice, you're going to react to. So when you start to understand these things, you can actually go back, and instead of reacting constantly to life, you can actually start working on clearing these old shadows in your life and free yourself, heal yourself. But that takes self-responsibility and self-honesty, and you've got to really want it more than you want to be a victim of life. There's a certain pleasure that you can gain, or I should say energy that you can gain through being the victim, and life has done this to me, poor me, and you're getting sympathy from other people. There's a certain currency there. A lot of people indulge in that currency, and like when you break up with somebody and you sit with your friends and they're going, yeah, I was a real asshole, and all this kind of talk's going on. But it's not very often that a friend will say, okay, well, what's really going on inside of you? What is it in you that put up with this type of abuse? You know, let's look at that, because this person was basically just reflecting something going on. Your own relationship with yourself on some level. What's going on there, you know? Let's look at that. Let's work on that, because that's something that you can heal. You know, you can't change that the relationship broke up. You can't change how he or she responded or reacted to you, or what they did, that betrayal or whatever it is. But go inside and start working on what it is in you. Perhaps you have a habit of attracting this sort of thing because deep down inside you don't believe that you're lovable or worthy, or deep down inside you have no boundaries and no real self-respect. You give everything away, so people walk all over you. So these are just examples that I'm using, very common ones, to show you, to demonstrate to you what I'm trying to say is it starts with us going inside and cleaning up our inner temple, our inner life, our inner emotional baggage and traumas. And it just takes being aware and being willing to look at ourselves and feel what we're feeling, and being a mother to ourselves, basically. You know, it has to come from a place of self-acceptance. Your self observation has to be a non-judgmental thing. It has to be a compassionate thing of I'm supporting myself right now because I want to heal. I want to be the best that I can possibly be. I want to be happy. I want to be whole. I want to fulfill my potentials. And I want to make a difference here on this earth. And when you start living like that, you start to actually activate your heart chakra. You start to have understanding and compassion for everyone around you. And you know, this sort of life of everyone else out there being a threat to you ends, and it becomes everyone out there is actually supporting your own growth and your own power. So it's just a shift in perspective, and it takes a little bit of effort to do that work. It doesn't just happen, you know, for no reason. It happens because you really want it, and you're fed up with the bullshit, and you're fed up with the same old traps that you fall into that creates so much suffering in your life. So anyway, folks, that is my message to you this morning, and I'm sure many of you, depending on what country you are in, are doing the best that you can with your day, and some of you are having your morning coffee or tea. I just want to say, have a beautiful day and have a mindful day, and sending you lots of love. Bye.